Hello, hello, and welcome, welcome. How are we doing today, everybody? Happy Wednesday. I hope everybody's having a good week so far, trying to survive here in the city. It's it's been an interesting week already for sure. I guess let me just introduce myself and the show. Hello and welcome to Denver Today, the show where we break down your local headlines and why they matter. Live from KUHS Radio, today is February 4th, 2026. I am your host, Luis Bustos. Feel free to reach out to us through TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and of course, give us a follow to stay in the loop for all the fun stuff and not so fun stuff that's happening here in Denver. Let's be honest, it's in the news. That's at KUHS Denver. So, this episode is brought to you by Inspire Success Coaching and Consulting. A little bit more about them here in just a few minutes. We're actually working on their ad. It's going to be really cool once it all comes together. It's going to be kind of give you a little bit more context about who they are and what they do. But we'll be back to that in just a minute. I just want to say hello again. Let's just take a second, breathe, and welcome in. Welcome to the show. I want to say that nothing is going on this week, but there's a lot going on, unfortunately. But with that being said, I just want to say shout out to Minnesota and shout out to LA. I've seen a lot of what's happening in the protests, and the thing about protests, y'all, is that we don't have to agree to support someone's right to do it, right? And I'm not saying this in a way to be dismissive to someone that to whatever, because I'm not there, right? In the same way that you're not there, and I'm playing devil's advocate here, if you can't tell. You don't have to agree with someone to agree with their right to do it. And so let's just leave it at that. And with that being said, I support your efforts out there in Minnesota and Los Angeles and New York to be heard within your communities, because that's your right as an American, right? With that being said, I guess on the topic of states that aren't Colorado, let me tell you a little story, a couple stories about DIA. Because I'm here to ease your paranoia. You are not going crazy. You are not, oh, excuse my phone, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's so weird. Apparently we're having a little bit of issue with our Facebook audio. But we will get to that in just a second. Hold on. So, but with that being said, let me alleviate some of your anxiety. You are not going crazy. You are not turning into a boomer overnight. The airport is more crowded. Okay, even marginally it is more crowded. You are not crazy. But let me just give you the whole headline, okay? So, Denver International Airport reported another record-setting year for the travel in 2025. Just over 82.4 million passengers traveled through the airport, according to the press release from Denver International Airport officials. That's a very slight increase, about 0.1% over 2024, but still enough to mark the busiest year in airport history. Officials say international travel saw the stronger growth than domestic, with every month setting a new record, a new passenger record. July was the biggest month ever, and one day in early July became the single busiest day for TSA screening Colorado travelers' history. The number signaled contained airport expansion and busy flight volumes as DIA moves towards a long-term goal of serving 100 million passengers a year. That's crazy, 100 million people a year. But with that being said, so I know it's a huge pain that the airport's more crowded, but the thing is, it saves you time and money, because if the airport's more crowded, it's being more successful, they can offer new flights. And that's what this little next story is about. So, Volaris is adding a new international flight from Denver. Mexico-based airline Volaris has announced it will begin a non-stop services between Denver International Airport and Querétaro, Mexico, starting June 3rd, 2026. The flights will run twice a week, year-round. This will be the first time Denver has a direct flight to Querétaro, making it a brand new destination in Denver International Airport's map. With this addition, Denver will now offer 9 non-stop destinations in Mexico and a record 35 international non-stop routes overall. Airport leaders say the route helps strengthen both business and cultural connections between Colorado and central Mexico. Querétaro is known for its historical city center, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and its proximity to San Miguel de Allende, a popular art and tourism destination. For Denver area travelers, this means more low-cost international options without having to connect through another city. That saves you money, people. Data from last year showed growing demand for travel between Denver and Querétaro, with nearly a 20% increase for passengers compared to the year before. Volaris already operates flights from Denver to Mexico City, Chihuahua, and Guadalajara, as this new route expands its footprint even further in Colorado. This is a really cool story, and I know that it seems like, oh, the airport's gonna get so busy, I'm not kidding y'all, this will save you money, because if you think about it, when you have a layover, you spend a little bit more money, you buy a little quick food, $10 water, that's how the airport works. On top of that, you're paying for 2 tickets, you're paying twice as much tax. If you can get a direct flight somewhere, do it. It will save you time and money, and DIA is here to help us with that, apparently, so that's awesome. With that being said, let me move on to this next story. This is a little bit more of like local politics, but let me just kind of keep you in the loop. So, former Denver Police Chief Paul Pazan is entering a local politics and plans to run for a seat on the Denver City Council. According to reporting from CBS Colorado, Puzin confirms he will announce his campaign next week for District 2, which represents Southwest Denver. Puzin retired in 2022 after 27 years with the Denver Police Department, including 4 years as chief. He says his campaign will focus on neighborhood safety, reliable city services, and support for small businesses. The seat is currently held by Councilman Kevin Flynn, who cannot run again due to term limits. The election isn't until April 2027, but this race is already starting to take shape. Another candidate, Trans Nugent Wills, who currently serves as Deputy Outreach Director for Mayor Mike Johnston, has also announced plans to run. Um, so, the early start means more time to evaluate the candidates and priorities before the next election cycle, right? And this is good for you, if you're a person that's voting in this election. Really take the time and find these politicians that are running. Because if it's this early in the campaign, they are going to be hosting little events here and there, maybe a coffee shop meetup or something. Go and ask your questions directly, because he does say he wants to support small businesses. He wants to support, what else was it? Local, oh my gosh, excuse me. So, neighborhood safety, reliable city services, and support for small business. That is great platform to run on, but that is also very vague. Go ask him. Go ask him to elaborate how he's going to do that. And if he's serious, he's going to answer you. And I think that's your power as a person that lives in this district that is voting for this person. So, shout out to them for starting this campaign early enough to make them accessible. That's honestly wonderful. But let me move on to the next story, though. This one is actually from the city of Golden. I thought this was a really interesting story. And anyone in Denver that's been around Denver is familiar with like the Lime bikes that we have, the little scooters. I'm familiar with seeing them like thrown onto the side of the highway, in addition to seeing them ridden around town. You know what I mean? And with that being said, I've always kind of wondered why the city doesn't get involved in running those in the same way that we do with the RTDs, right? But I guess Golden is actually thinking about it too. So the city of Golden is launching a new study to see whether docked electric bike share program could work in the community. City planners are partnering with the Denver Regional Council of Governments to evaluate a solar charging e-bike system that would allow riders to pick up and return bikes at designated stations around town. Officials say the study will look at whether the bike share program could expand transportation options, reduce car dependency, and improve access to popular destinations. The project will also review costs, infrastructure needs, and long-term management. The final report is expected in December of 2026. Golden residents will have several chances to weigh in, including online surveys, a community pop-up event in March, and an outreach program during the Colorado Environmental Film Festival. For Foothills commuters or students who travel between Golden and Denver, the study could shape future regional transportation options, so keep an eye on it. This is a really interesting story, right? Colorado is very unique in the sense that there's a lot of little small towns that make up this big city of Denver, right? And I think this could be a wonderful program if you start in Golden, somewhere where it's kind of out of the way, and they can really get a good assessment on if it works, because hopefully it does. Accessible, affordable transportation for all of us is a good thing. I guess with that being said, let me give you a little story time. So when I was like a sophomore in college, I want to say I was 21, 20, no, I was like 20, right? At some point, I went to go pick up my friend from the airport because she was visiting from another state where she was going to school. And I was driving this like 2004 Toyota Camry, and like this was at the time, this was the nicest car I'd ever driven, right? It was the first car I bought off the lot that I didn't buy off Facebook Marketplace, right? Because I was a kid. And I remember like this was my baby, y'all. Like it was the 2004 model, but it had all the bells and whistles. It was the premium one or whatever, right? And I remember like the fog lights, automatic music and seat warmers and all that fun stuff, right? But anyway, so dream car, I go pick up my friend from the airport, and we're just like sitting on I-75. We stop and go traffic, and I don't know what I did, but I guess I slammed on the gas too fast. But boom, right in front of me, the guy rear-ended him. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, right? A. B. He was driving a Volvo. I guess this isn't sponsored. Like I should make that clear, right? But there was not a single scratch on his car, y'all. And my Toyota crushed like an accordion. Like I was like probably going like 40 miles an hour. And to this day, I think about that so much. I almost bought a Volvo for that same reason last time I bought a car. But with that being said, so I that happened, right? And I had to go depend on the RTD system for like a year and a half. Because I was at school, I was trying to pay for school. I couldn't afford another car, right? I still had to pay off that one that I totaled. But with that being said, the buses are incredible. However, there is not enough. And if you're a person that relies solely on the buses, I am in your corner. And that's how it was a few years ago. I don't know what it's like now, arguably, but at the time, there was not enough support to move throughout Denver to make stuff happen. And it got to the point where I couldn't maintain my job and go to school. So I had to choose one, right? Um, and when it comes down to it, what are you going to choose? Your education or rent, right? And that was one of the personal experiences I have, and that's why I'm personally so adamant that public affordable transportation is a wonderful thing for our city, especially for the younger folks that are still trying to get their sea legs out. Okay, the city's expensive, cars are expensive, insurance is expensive, but you know what's not expensive? A $2 ticket for the bus. So I love this. I'm gonna keep an eye on this story from Golden for y'all. And but that being said, let's move on to the next story. I don't want to hold you up too long. So Jefferson County saw the largest increase in homelessness in the Denver metro area last year. So with some context, Denver still does have more homeless people than Jefferson County. However, Jefferson County did receive the biggest increase, right? So here's a little bit more context on that. Reporting from the Denver Gazette, oh, excuse me. Reporting from the Denver Gazette, Jeffco's homeless rate rose 27% from 2024 to 2025, the biggest jump in the region. County officials say that about half of those counted were nearly homeless or newly homeless, contributing to a more than 160% increase since 2022. Meanwhile, in Denver, more than 7,300 homeless people were counted as homeless, an increase of nearly 800 from the year before, even as the number of people sleeping outdoors declined. For metro area residents, these numbers could influence local budget decisions, shelter capacity, and regional cooperation on housing and support services as cities prepare for long-term strategies. So this is kind of a story that hits close to home. I've had friends that have fallen into homelessness, um, and it's not always. I feel like there's this huge connotation is that when you're homeless, it's because you've failed or that you don't work hard enough. And um, what I can tell you though is that generally, there's a lot of homeless people out there that are foster kids that aged out of the system. A lot of them are victims of domestic violence. Even if you feel like every homeless person is just a drug addict or whatever, if somebody that's on drugs has been failed systematically and they're trying to cope with it, and I think that the best thing we can do is Denver residents. I know it's scary. I know it's scary, especially if you're like a woman living in this city. I know it's scary, but I just want to say, try to lead with empathy. And if you can, donate just a little bit to your local shelter, either the homeless shelter or food shelters. Not everyone that needs help is on the street, right? But yeah, with that being said, this is kind of a little bit of a heartbreaking story, right? So, but with that being said, let me move on to this next story. So the Denver Police Department is asking for the public's help in identifying a suspect linked to two separate assaults in South Denver last month. According to Denver Police Department update, the first incident happened January 7th near South Grant Street, and the second, a similar attack was reported January 27th near South Grant and East Ellsworth. Investigators say they are still working to determine whether both incidents involved the same person. In one case, a Good Samaritan stepped in to help the victim. In the other, the victim fought back, but the suspect ran away. Police recently released additional video footage and are asking anyone who may have been suspicious, who have seen suspicious activity in the area, especially near South Broadway and East Louisiana Avenue. So please come forward and talk to your local police if you saw anything weird, just to keep your neighbors safe. For local residents, this means move with extra caution, basically, particularly when walking or running after dark. Anyone with information can contact Metro Denver Crime Stoppers, and you can remain anonymous. And I know I get it, okay? I am a part of the Hispanic community. I know that there's people, oh my gosh, how did I even miss this? There's people in the Black community that don't always trust police too. With that being said, we'll get to Black History Month. I want to talk about that in just a second too. Okay. I know that not everybody always trusts the police. That's what I'm trying to say, right? But with that being said, I think that there is definitely things that we can do to help our neighbors and our communities to stay safe. And to give some context for that, I guess here's our next story. Earlier today, Colorado observed Colorado's Missing Persons Day with a series of events at the state capitol in Denver. According to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, a resolution was read inside the Capitol and a prayer vigil was held on the west steps to honor more than 600 people who have been missing in the state for a year or longer. The CBI also published an updated list of missing persons on its website and displayed a slideshow featuring several active cases. Family members gathered throughout the morning, ending the ceremony with a bubble release. For Colorado families still searching for answers, this day served as both a memorial and a reminder that the investigations remain active, with law enforcement saying they continue to use new technology and resources to help locate the missing and support loved ones. If you'd like to share some words on a loved one who's gone missing, you can visit forevermiss.com. And even if you just want to take a minute to visit this website and just kind of send your thoughts and prayers. You know, reading, I know that sounds really cheesy, like it doesn't do anything, but like really, just take a moment and acknowledge that this is happening. I think it really brings you closer to your neighbors and to our community, right? Um, I want to end today's show on a lighter note. But before we get into that, actually, let's talk about Black History Month. Shout out to everybody in Denver that cares about Black History Month, and I think everybody should care about Black History Month. Hello. But with that being said, shout out to all of our listeners and all of the Black people here in our city of Denver, and here in our great state, and here in our great country. Shout out to you for all your hard work. I see you, and keep on shining. So, with that being said, let's drop into a little fun segment, okay? So the Aurora Public Library is sharing what readers and movie fans checked out the most last year. The library released its most checked out items of 2025, and the list spans mystery, romance, children's, nonfiction, and even DVDs. Well, it's just one DVD. It's just a very consolidated list, okay? So, top authors included David Baldacci, Emily Henry, Kristen Hanna, Jonathan Haidt, and Suzanne Collins. Of course, Suzanne Collins. Who is not reading Miss Suzanne Collins, right? The most checked out DVD was Disney Pixar, Inside Out 2. I actually haven't seen that one yet. I want to see it. So here's the full list. Let me break it down for you. So I've got genre, and then I've got the name and the author, okay? So keep an eye out for the kind of books you read, okay? Keep an ear out, excuse me. So, mystery thriller, To Die For by David Baldacci. Romance, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. How meta, Book Lovers. Middle grade, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Ugly Truth by Jeff Kinney. I'm so glad Diary of a Wimpy Kid is still doing good. That's from back when I was in middle school. That's crazy. Picture book, Pete the Cat and His Four Groovy Buttons by Eric Litwin. Adult fiction, The Women by Kristen Hanna. Adult nonfiction, The Anxious Generation, How the Great Recovering of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness by Jonathan Haidt. Oh my gosh. Are the adult nonfiction? Oh my gosh, I need to look into this. Are the kids okay? So, teen fiction, Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Yes, 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 The Hunger Games all day. And most popular ebook is The Women by Kristen Hanna. Okay, she got on here twice, Miss Kristen Hanna. Audiobook is going to be Onyx Storms by Rebecca Yarros. This one sounds really interesting. And the most popular DVD, like we said, is Inside Out 2. But I just wanted to give you those little list of things to remind you that these resources are here for our community. You don't need to go buy a book, go rent one. You don't need to pay for Netflix, go check out a movie. You know, it's fine. And these places in our community are here to make everything accessible, right? Right down to the fun stuff, like the Disney movies, right? So, but with that being said, I think we're actually gonna wrap our show up. I just wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsor again, Inspire Success and Coaching, and we'll be right back with after these ads. All right, Henry, can you knock me off, please?